SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Got Nick, Amber, and Dave with me. And we're a week into free agency now. Cowboys have made some moves. They've signed 5 players. They've lost 5 players. They re-signed a few of their own. And we're going to spend the show talking about what the Cowboys have done so far in free agency and getting these guys' opinions on what they think. Let's start first with just...
Forgot something.
the big overall. And the big question, how do you think the Cowboys have done from the standpoint of their approach to free agency this year? Was there anything that stood out to you, or was it pretty much kind of what you expected? Let's start with you, Nick.
It's what I expected. It's what we all expected, honestly. And, they made a splash when they signed Dak Prescott. And they not just Dak, but the other guys at that position. They have high-profile players at a lot of positions. That's their strategy. They re-sign their own. They don't have a lot, and they've been bargain shopping. They did it last year. Didn't work. I mean, they've done it several years, and then they're doing it this year. They're trying to get bargains. And, it's all they really have to do because they don't have a lot of money.
Amber.
I guess it's fine right now. It's just so hard to tell because you never know how these guys are really going to turn out once they get here. And even during training camp, we don't know until the season actually starts. So it's hard to tell right now. I am, a little curious to see what they do with these safeties that are supposed to be visiting with them. So at least that's nice to hear that they are getting some safeties in the building to look at. But just overall, nothing that we didn't expect, really. We've been talking about it here since forever. This is kind of what they do. But at least they're making some moves on defense specifically, so that's a good positive.
Dave.
Dang it,
ads. Making some bacon wrapped green beans. Put this tenderloin on. I'm gonna roast.
There we go.
If you're talking about what stands out, it's just, it might as well be a handbook at this point. They signed a veteran offensive tackle whose resume probably doesn't wow you. They made some bargain signings on the defensive line to kind of, air quote, shore that thing up. And they're bargain hunting with name guys who, for a variety of reasons, don't have the resume to be more expensive. Keanu Neal is a great player. He's missed 2 seasons due to injury. It's probably a big part of the reason why he was able to be had so cheaply. If they wind up signing Malik Hooker or DeMonte Casey, it'll be for a similar reason. I think they're both coming off of season-ending injuries.
No, he's wide open.
They re-signed a couple of their key guys. Bringing Jordan Lewis back, I think, is a good bargain signing. But again, this is, to Nick's point, this is probably year 7 in a row that it's looked fairly similar to this and hasn't always worked out very well or at all. There's a couple of these that I'm optimistic about, but at this point, that's about it. As all you can do is hope that this will turn out better than the last. And we're going to get into that, and we're going to talk specifically about each of these deals that the Cowboys have made. There's another question I have for you guys. Are there deals, as you look across the NFL and you see players that have been signed, are there deals that you look at and you're like, man, I really wish the Cowboys would have done that? Like, for the money and for the player, were there deals you were like, the Cowboys probably could have made that work, and I think it would have been a good move for them? Let's start with you, Nick.
I can't think of one, honestly. I haven't maybe looked that closely, but I just think that
no.
They're in a different boat. You see a lot of these 1- and 2-year deals. Obviously, players aren't trying to get tied up, locked up into knowing money.
I haven't seen a long-term deal. Like, the longest I think I've seen is maybe 3
year deal. Yeah, and that's probably one that could be voided down to 2. When you get to when the salary cap starts increasing back in the next couple of years. So when you do deals like that, you have to have some cap. You have to have You have to have cap space to do that because you just don't have any. You can't, they only had 17 or 18 million going into this thing, so you can't do a deal like that. Now, I haven't seen one specifically. Dave might have a better answer, or Amber.
I'd way rather have Dalvin Tomlinson for 2 years, $22 million than like half of the guys they've signed, for sure. Yeah, and that's not expensive. I mean, I know they don't have a lot of money, but you can add voidable years. That's the new vogue thing to do in the NFL. Or sign him and 3 fewer guys and make it work. If that's all it took to get him out of New York, that was shocking to me. And maybe that's because the cap is so much lower. But I would have done that deal in a heartbeat. I'm looking to see if anything else really jumps out at me. That was the one that really, I'm not going to say it upset me, but I was like, that's all it costs to get that good of a defensive tackle. Which this is maybe a little bit unfair, but I've always said it's not so much the signings, but the creative ways that teams get aggressive. If you tell me that I could have had Michael Brockers for a future 7th round pick, bring it on. And we'll structure his contract. We'll figure it out. Absolutely. And like I said, that might not be fair because they traded Brockers to Detroit. Detroit's new GM used to work for the Rams. That's maybe a little bit of a sweetheart situation, but pick up those phones, man. Call around. There's a cap crunch. Teams have had to make difficult decisions all over the league, and if you're proactive about it, you can wind up getting guys like Michael Brockers for a 7th round pick. So there were a few bargain deals that I would have liked to have seen them go after for sure.
Did you see anything, Amber, that kind of piqued your interest?
Well, just in general, and I'm sure this might be different for you guys because you guys know more people around the league and everything, but to me, it's always the same story. It's like, I just always wish, and I know that they signed Dak and all that, but I just wish that someone that I kind of knew more of would be signed through free agency because I'm always having to investigate, okay, who's this guy? What has he done? Where was he at? What's his deal? And it's always someone that I don't really know much about, so it's not really fun or exciting when you are getting a name thrown your way saying, oh, we signed this guy, but you never heard of, really. But one guy that I will mention that did stand out to me was LP Ladouceur. What they did with him, not re-signing him and getting, what's the guy's name from the Rams?
Jake McQuaid.
Yeah, that was totally surprising to me. And I get the relationship there between John Fassel and like special teams and the Rams and blah blah. But at the same time, it's like, why? LP has been here for so long. He's never done anything bad. He doesn't necessarily have a smile on his face when he walks around, but he's a guy that's fine on the field. He doesn't cause problems on the field, so...
It's funny how everybody kind of chuckled when you said that. It's kind of good.
He's just, he ain't got...
He's kind of surly.
He's an interesting
Nothing
guy.
wrong with that. Yeah.
But, no, when you talk about a guy on the field that has done his job for so many years and been here for so long, that to me was definitely surprising not to hear the Cowboys signing him, at least on another one-year deal.
Yeah. It kind of surprised me a little bit, too, but I just refused to get myself worked up over a long snapper.
Thank you for
I
saying.
My gosh.
Am I crazy? Because eight snaps a game. That's what you're talking about. And Jake McQuaid's been to 2 Pro Bowls. I know LP's been here forever, but I saw it happen, and I was like, no, it's kind of weird, but that's Fossil's guy. All right, on to the next one. Yeah. That's basically that was my thought process.
It's kind of like you get a new job and they let you bring your secretary. Okay, fine. That's fine. Bring
Whatever
your
you want,
secretary.
man.
It's fine. It's
Makes
not
you
a big
feel
deal.
better.
Okay, so real quick before we move on to actually going through some of these different contracts.
Called that anymore?
Do it.
Secretaries?
They don't. Did I say something wrong?
No, what do they call it?
Administrative assistants.
Administrative
You're right.
assistants, yeah.
Administrative assistants. My bad. I got caught.
But you know, it's funny.
80.
I know. But it's funny. It's like you can make that argument both ways, though. You can say, okay, I'm not going to get worked up. It's a long snapper. Okay, but go back to what she said. What's the problem? Why? Because he's a little surly now and again. Maybe he didn't say something. Maybe he kind of talked back into me. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't see eye to eye with Fossil. He's a long snapper, and he's one of the best ones. So this guy McQuaid, he's probably going to make more money. And guess what? He has to be better than 0 snaps ever. I mean, that's. I'm just saying.
It sounds like he is, though. It sounds like he's a really good long snapper.
Yeah,
so
and you know what? Go back and watch every high school, college, pro football game. We watch a lot of football. most of us, watch a lot of football. I'm just saying, I'm talking about Friday, Saturday.
Some more
all
than
of it.
others,
Yeah, right.
yes.
How many bad snaps do you see?
Well, I will tell you
Depends
this,
on which
Nick.
level of football you're
Even
watching.
high
Well, it
school,
does-
in college, you don't see them a ton.
But Nick, let's go back. Let's go back to when they were making that transition from Hellestray.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a rocky time. Like, you had some snaps
No,
in there that just kind of weren't on point.
It was, and you're gonna
So,
have some.
yeah.
I know.
But when you
My
get a good one,
gosh.
you don't worry about it because it doesn't happen, right? Bad ones don't happen.
Yeah, there's 32 out there, 32 jobs, and most of them are pretty good. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't turned it over fewer than this.
I'm scared to run
I
this.
kind of agree.
So all I'm saying is that if there was anything going on that was like, I'm getting rid of him. I mean, you could say, well, no big deal, it's a long snapper, but they could have also said, okay, he's a long snapper. He does his job and all that. So it is curious. It's curious a little bit.
Yeah, I guess my point
He's
is
40 though. He turned 40.
my point is that if it's one or the other and they're about the same as far as their abilities, and you happen to feel more comfortable with one or the other, and again, we're making a lot of we're assuming a lot here, but let's assume that the special teams coach Fossil just felt more comfortable with the guy that he had with the Rams. Then if I'm the organization and the contract's up on the other guy anyway, I mean, is it really that big a deal? Fine, bring in the guy you feel comfortable with. As long as he's good, then, I don't really have a problem with it one way or the other. And so that's why, for me, I just kind of was like, I get your point, Amber. I was kind of a little, like, my eyebrow raised, like, really? Why would they just make this swap? But at the end of the day, it was kind of like, well, this guy seems like he's just as good, so, okay, fine. Not that big a deal.
If he was an undecorated, unexperienced player, I would probably be making a bigger deal of this. But he's been in the league for 10 years in his own right. He's been 2 Pro Bowls. If that's who John Fossil wants
How old is
doing
he?
it. I don't know, but he's been in the league since 2011. So
These guys play a long time.
Early
Long snappers play a ton, like a long time.
Is
Probably
he younger
34,
than-
35. Probably, I would say
He's
around
33.
33. Okay.
Yeah, so he could probably play another 10 years, maybe. Who
I think
knows?
1 year. I think 1 year that Fossil was there, I think all 3 Rams specialists made the Pro Bowl. I think Zerline,
I believe so
Hecker,
as well.
and then McQuaid. But I told this to Dave. I mean, it seems like it's been 2 years since that happened. I mean, it's only been a week or so. But I mean, you know who wins off this? Witten.
J.C. Witts. Gets to hold that record, baby.
255 career games played. LP was at 253, chomping away on that cookie, ready to get him. And
Not so fast, my friend.
Tracy with like old Lee Corso. Not so fast.
But it could be interesting here too that obviously we wouldn't know until we talked to Fossil, and probably had to talk to him off the record to get this, but are there things, and we saw it this last year, he's unconventional. We know that. He does some unconventional things. Are there things that from a snapping standpoint that maybe there are some nuances that he looks at and he's like, I just don't think LP does that in the same way this other guy does it. Recognizes certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to run fakes and stuff, snapping the ball to a different person might be a little different. I don't know. I don't know a lot about the art of long snapping, but all I'm saying is I think right now we're making a lot of assumptions. I would love to talk to the special teams coach and find out what are the differences that you look at in a long snapper, because there may be some differences that we just aren't talking about.
Yeah.
Feel free to drag me. Like, pull this show out of the receipts in October when he botches a snap. But I can't believe we're
Why
still talking.
are you calling this on?
I'm just,
like, we don't want to.
I just can't. First of all, superstitions aren't real. Second of all, I can't believe we dedicated like 8 minutes to the long snapper. That's
Sorry, guys.
Amber did that.
Another. Oh,
You guys carried it.
As long as
You're
we're
right.
as long as we're talking, I thought of another one. Anthony Harris to Philadelphia,
Oh,
1 year,
gosh.
$5 million. I'd
Yeah.
have done that deal. Which I won't mind as much if they come away with one of these guys that's visiting this week. And it's draft bias for sure, but God, Malik Hooker was a hell of a college safety, and he's shown that he can do it at a pretty high level when he's healthy. That would excite me. But Anthony Harris had 6 interceptions in 2019. He's played, he doesn't get hurt. He hasn't missed many games over the last 3-4 years. 1 year, $5 million. I would have done that for sure.
So of those guys, let's switch to that. Of the guys that they have in here right now, do you have a favorite? Do you have a guy that you would like them to sign between Hooker and Kazee, or like which one do you like most?
Kazee,
go ahead.
I mean,
Sorry.
Kazee has been a ball hawk. I mean, he's got games one year and 3 another. So you like that. What you don't like is that, Zeke didn't have a lot of highlights last year. Ezekiel Elliott. One of them was he trucked over Kazee in the end zone and almost, he hurt him. Remember the touchdown against the Falcons where, he took him. He just got up last week from that.
He was already in Dallas, so they were like, why don't you bring you in?
Here? So,
no, we do need to do a medical on you, but...
So from a safety standpoint, you don't love that part of it.
That's why Keanu Neal's here to do
That's exactly. I was just
Keanu Neal is here to hit Zeke. DeMonte KZ.
Stay 30 yards behind the line.
Yeah, you stay back there, and if Zeke gets through to you,
which one is?
What are you gonna do?
Which one's coming off the Achilles?
KZ.
And what is Hooker coming off of?
I've looked this up a million times, and I always forget.
And Keanu Neal had a.
He's had 2 back-to-back.
Yeah.
He had an ACL and an Achilles, right?
Yes, but he did play.
He played last year.
He was not hurt last year. Yes, Hooker's coming off an Achilles from week 2 of last season.
So both the safeties they have in today are both coming off Achilles.
That's why they're here. Visits are not a thing in the NFL anymore, unless they, the Cowboys want to take a look and see, how you recover and how you moving. What's your timetable?
It's looking at them.
Yeah.
The physicals too. So, that used to scare me more. The Achilles injury, especially for a defensive back. I think Barry Church had it 2012-13. The Cowboys actually signed him. He was having a pretty good, career, 2 or 3 years, and then he gets an Achilles injury, and the Cowboys signed him immediately and said 4 or 5 year deal, cheap probably, but they made a commitment to him, and he, it was a good player. It was a bargain. He was a bargain then, but I don't think you saw any effects of the Achilles for him. He was never a guy that could run super fast for a safety. I hope Barry's not. Well, Barry was a.
I'll call him.
I don't think he would argue.
He was an
I think he'd be like, that's fair.
all MAC player from Toledo 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Freshman to senior. Wasn't drafted. Because I think he ran a 4.7, 4.8, but he could play.
Yeah.
And, and I think the Achilles injury really didn't affect him from that standpoint. So, if they come back, and, I'd like to, either one of them would help. And I'm curious where they all fit into this, because Donovan Wilson can play. He's got a spot somewhere, and so I'm curious to see, Neal. There's been talk of a linebacker role for him. So
let's assume for a second that they signed one of these 2 guys. You can take whichever choice you like of the 2, and then you combine that with Keanu Neal. Do you feel like the Cowboys may have something finally at safety between the combination that gets further ahead than where they've been over the last several years, or do you think that still is a huge area of weakness for them going into the draft?
I think I will feel optimistic. Yeah, but I guarantee you, if one of them signs, it'll be a 1 or 2 year deal. Prove it. See what we can get. So it won't be long-term fixed, and I will be optimistic that the safety position has the potential to be better than it has in a long time, but I'm not going to bank on it. I would absolutely still draft a safety in the top 100 if it fell that way. Wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
Even if he's mainly a special teamer as a rookie, I don't care. So I would feel optimistic, but not confident.
Yeah, you're not going to take one at number 10. I don't believe there is one that you would take that
I've
high.
not heard of one. I don't study it every day like Dave, but there is.
I don't even know if you trade down, let's say, to a 15 or 16, that would still be a reach to take a safety there. So
we at the end of the day, you never fully know. The biggest example I can think of is the Raiders drafted Cleveland Farrell in the top 5 a couple years ago. Nobody saw that coming. All these teams have different grades on these guys, but conventional wisdom says the best safety in the draft is probably TCU's Trevon Moehrig, and I would be shocked if he gets drafted before. If he gets drafted in the top 25, I would be pretty surprised.
Yeah. So once you get out of the first round, then you're talking about second round and on, and just about every position other than quarterback you would consider at that. Even running back if you wanted to. You can consider all positions in the second round. And we saw what they did with C.D. Lamb, which, by the way, this morning at 6:30 in the morning, I wake up or whatever time it was, and I start thinking of that Jason
Caleb Vaughn?
Yeah, what did he do last year?
Nothing.
He really didn't.
He's a rotational guy. He had 1 sack.
So,
which is exactly
on the trajectory of the Cowboys defensive end pick from a few years ago.
Honestly, I'm not going to pretend that I watched I don't think I watched a snap of Jaguars football last year, but that's what we said Chason would be all last year. Like, people don't get it twisted. That's what we said. We were like, if you draft this guy, you're doing it as a long-term project and hoping he gets better. He ain't going to be anything more than a rotational guy as a rookie, and that's why you should draft CD Lamb. Like, it's very obvious which one is better. So,
all right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive into these players that the Cowboys did sign and also some of the guys that they lost and get some opinions on.
What is that?
Mine. Why?
It's just that it's...
Lavender? Yes, it is. It's for men.
But I like the smell of it.
Most famous trucks in the world. Get your tickets before they're gone at SeatGeek.com.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of The Break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Stars. Nick and Dave and Amber, and we're talking Cowboys football. We're talking about free agency. We're about a week in at this point. And so let's go through some of these additions that the Cowboys have made. I want you guys to talk to me. I'll throw out a name, and I want you guys to give me your thoughts on the signing and where you think they fit. Because there are some interesting ones in here, particularly the first one we're going to get to about where they fit and how the Cowboys may use them. Let's start with safety Keanu Neal. He was originally a first-round pick, 17th overall pick in 2016 of the Falcons. He signed a one-year, $4 million deal. $3 million of that is guaranteed. What do you think of the signing, and where does he fit?
Well, I think that he's a guy that's going to probably play closer to the line of scrimmage than back. He's had 3 healthy years. He gets 100 tackles every time in those 3 years. And so, there's been some talk that he's going to play some linebacker. The scheme's going to be a little bit different. I think that he'll, right now we're calling him a safety. That's what everybody that's been on record to talk about it has said nothing different than that, because there hasn't been anyone talking about it. So we call him a safety, but I think he could play closer to the line of scrimmage.
I think people get too caught up in trying to label. I think he's going to do a lot of stuff. I think it's probably their best signing so far. I'm not trying to pump him up as the answer to all of their defensive woes, but this is a great intersection of talented player who's still young. He's only 25. He's been to a Pro Bowl. He's had some injuries, but to Nick's point, when he's been healthy, he's been productive. He's not your center fielder. He's not that guy, but he's a thumper. He's going to tackle everybody. I would play him at strong safety, close to the line. Don't freak out about Donovan Wilson, because he can move down. No, he's not going to play will linebacker all the time, but he can play nickel linebacker. Wouldn't be shocked if he's your linebacker in dime packages just to get some speed on the field. So you're saying maybe have basically what would be 3 safeties with him being a linebacker? Yeah, sure. And we've seen, I know it was Rod, not Dan Quinn, but we've seen them play 3 safeties back at times.